And good evening. Welcome once again to Branco Broadcast. My name is Bob Branco. Glad to have all of you with us on this lovely spring Monday evening. We're very pleased this evening to have with us Mr. Bob Zeida of Dartmouth, Massachusetts. He is going to talk to all of us about his hobby of recording for the blind. He does a lot of other things too, but I don't want to steal his thunder. Bob, welcome to Branco Broadcast. It's a real pleasure.
Well, it's my pleasure, especially when we finally got together after last week's debacle there on the conference call. But here we go. Yeah, I've been doing this for quite a few years now, about 30 years. I sort of went to college. I went to American University in Washington, which at that time, because of its prominence in the nation's capital and where all the world news starts and never goes away, American U was with the with this New York City College too. They were the first two major colleges to actually have a full radio, television, communications program for aspiring broadcasters or personalities to train in talking and being in front of cameras and so forth and so on. So I ended up that way with a little bit of an education in my college degree relative to communicating and such, and but I didn't really get into that. I did it for about 6 or 8 months by going down to Las Vegas, Nevada, KLAS, Channel 8 in Las Vegas, and that's where I sort of got my feet wet, but then the love bug bit me, and I came all the way back to Massachusetts and ended up working for the brewery. You know, some of you folks in in Massachusetts know the Carling Brewing Company, right there in Natick, Massachusetts, on Lake Cochituate. I actually started in the alcoholic beverage business with Carling Brewing Company. So that's got nothing to do with recording. So you can ask me questions about that, but it's really not that important. But my major career turned out to be in the alcoholic beverage category in sales. I was a very successful salesman on Cape Cod for about 8 years before the boss finally gave me what he hired me from and moved me back from Carling in Albany, New York, and that just made me basically a general manager and vice president of the United Liquors is the name of the company. It was finally sold by a gentleman, a great guy, Raymond Ty, and he sold it to the Martinetti Company. So you people that are in the general Massachusetts area know those names to some degree because they have liquor stores around Massachusetts and so forth. But I became a very successful, fortunately, as a sales representative and represented my company very well throughout all of southeastern Massachusetts, and they ended up rewarding me, if you want to call it, by making me the wine buyer for the last 15 years of my career. So that had nothing to do with audio voice recordings, obviously, but toward that end of my career there, I was looking for something else to get into, and I got onto the Massachusetts Reading Network. And I'm sure other states have reading networks as well. But the Massachusetts Reading Network, which is funded primarily, it was anyway for the last 20 years, by the Commission for the Blind, and a lot of it was funded by the state grant money, it became known as the Talking Information Center, TIC. So if you're familiar with that, I'd like you to comment back to me after I finish, give me a little bit more fill here. Now, I started recording things for TIC, or the Massachusetts Reading Network, almost 30 years ago. And along with basically what I really recorded for them at that time was full books. I mean, you can take a shot at any book you want. 1776 by David McCullough, The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown, and so forth. And not only that, but I actually did the very first Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by J.K. Rowling for TIC. It was the first children's program that they had me record in 30-minute segments, which, you know what? I think there were 30-minute segments. That was a long book. Miss Rowling did a lot of long writing. So I got my feet wet with Talking Information Center, and I still record one program for TIC, and it's had a lot of tremendous successes in the audio business, the public service reading services business. And I still do amateur radio as a hobby on one of their programs known as Leisure Pursuits. I give them 1 hour every month, and I've been doing that now for 5 or 6 years for that. But I basically retired from these long books because it took a lot of concentration. And I found about 15 years ago that I had a knack for, well, I've always had a wonderful love of children. I have 4 of my own. I've got 7 grandchildren and maybe 6 great-grandchildren. So I'm 85 and a half years of age, incidentally. So I ended up starting to do things for the Dartmouth public school systems. And that's really the seed of this whole long list of books. It started with elementary and worked its way into middle and all the high schools in special educational special needs. That's where my connection is with special needs people. Not so much for visually impaired people, although they're all qualified, and you people are listening to this, and I hope you jump on the bandwagon. And I've developed about 300 books or so, and most of them are really classics in their own category for elementary level, middle school teaching levels, and high school teaching levels. It'll take that only into college, too, for that matter. And it's been an absolutely marvelous life experience for me because I just nibble at it all these 30 years now, and that's the key thing to get things done when it's a tedious, maybe enjoyable, very enjoyable process. The satisfaction is always there at the end, but I just take my time. I finished just about an hour ago, reading Hatchet by one of the great authors for the 5th grade level. And that's what I do. And I just built this library over the years, and it took off with the Dartmouth school systems. And the next thing you know, I'm doing books for other neighborhood schools, and then it's branched out over anywhere at all, for that matter, all over Massachusetts, for instance, and Rhode Island. And that's basically where I am with it right now. And it can be elementary, middle, or high school. The high school books that I've read are most of the books category as classics in literature that are teachable to students in the grade levels going up through the 12-year system, And I've had a really, really fine success with private schools. There's that Perkins School. It's not the Perkins School for the blind that you're thinking, but the other Perkins School up there in northern Massachusetts that has a whole list of my stuff. And other major private schools that really use the stuff because I can deal with them directly. They don't have the administrative rah-dee-dah that nobody wants to go any beyond lifting their fingers in a lot of places in public school systems, and you can believe that's true. So maybe I should pause for a second, Bob, and let you pick it up, and maybe I can begin to answer questions that way for you. Go ahead.
Yes, Bob.
I also wanted to add, Bob, if I may, for those of you that are familiar with consumer vision, I don't recall if any of you had ever received it on CD at one time years ago, but Bob was the reader for Consumer Vision on CD.
As a matter of fact, Bob, on that subject, yeah, when I finally gave it up, and you had a good friend up there up in the middle part of the state, that I was sending it to 37 people. That's 37 CDs I had to burn for your Consumer Vision. I finally got to be a little overburdensome for me because I had all these other things, sort of a schedule going. So that's why your friend up there in Milford, I think, wasn't it, Bob?
Yep, Alan Hensel.
Yeah, actually took that over until very recently, didn't he?
Correct. Now my magazine is exclusively email.
Email, yeah. Well, so there you go. But I'll pause for to listen to anybody.
I have a question, Bob.
Yes. Who is this?
Well, first of all, I thank you for the very energetic presentation, and you sound a lot younger than your age.
Oh, yeah.
I got to
I have to work at that all the time.
I know. Looks like that comes from an alcoholic background. Maybe you sing again, so that works.
Well, I won't comment on that part of it. I got a little raspy right now. I actually had to go down to the urgent care because I've been hacking for about almost 2 weeks now, and my son that lives with us, he's a very energetic gentleman. He insisted I go down there, so I went to the urgent care down the bottom of the hill, and they said, no, you don't have pneumonia, but you got a pretty good infection in the throat. So I'm a little raspy today. And I actually had a double pneumonia back in November, so I was very, very leery about this developing there. So, but they said I'm fine, and I'm taking some,
Well, I'm glad you're doing fine.
Jay, what is your question for Bob?
You said you did work for TIC. Do you remember Karen Pendergast working there?
Karen
Pendergast.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I know she's not. Was she blind?
Yes.
Yes, that's the girl. She's the one that actually had me come there and audition me, if you want to call it that. Yes. She was a delightful, well, I hope she's still not passed on, but she was a delightful lady. She had the marvelous talent of actually being totally blind, running all the control boards in the different little studios where they did the recordings for the volunteers to come in. She'd go in and set up the boards for audio levels, and what a marvelous talent she developed in spite of her, blindness. In fact, I got to be friendly with her, and she actually invited me to her home one time, which is down closer to Plymouth. But my wife and I used to take the trip up to Marshfield. That's where TIC is. TIC Network is up in Marshfield. And I actually swung off the road there and went and visited. She had a lovely home in the woods, little pine trees. And is she still alive?
I'm trying to figure it out. No, I haven't heard for many, many years. I don't know. The last I heard was more than 20 years ago. I thought maybe you would know what happened to her.
Well, I know this, that after several years, and I've been there, I've been in touch with TIC now for almost 30 years. So I've got my 25-year clock and everything, But she only was there for about 4 or 5 years after I started volunteering there, and then I think they let her go. I don't know whether they used some kind of excuse to let her go, but she was moved out of there. I put it politely, okay, but I have no idea why, and that was sad because she was really very, very efficient.
She was from the beginning of TIC there,
yes,
first establishment, and did very well.
Yeah, that's what I say. She actually had me come over after work one day. I was working for United Liquors as a wine buyer, and I was in West Bridgewater, right on the 24 and 495 rotary there, and I had to drive over there 40 minutes from there over to Marshfield one night after work, and she waited for me, and she it didn't take long to figure out I could do it,
Right.
Yeah, I've been a ham radio operator I didn't bring that up a little while ago, but
yeah, you're quite a ham, by the way, I heard.
Yeah, but I've been a licensed amateur radio operator for about 30 years, also. So I was always good for talking, and I still am, I guess. The good Lord's given me that strength and ability, and so there you go. But it's a mixed bag, starting with a college degree in radio, television, production, direction, going to Vegas, and then leaving there and getting married, and here I am 62 years later with my lovely wife.
Oh, that's nice. Bob, last question. You still have some of those wine bottles in your cellar right here. You're full of it. Is that correct?
No, I don't. Hey, man, they don't taste good when the cork is in them, You have to open the cork.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Very good. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. And that's another story. Because I was sort of worked into being the wine buyer for the company. That wasn't just it wasn't a Chateau this and that and Bordeaux or the California Inglewood Valley stuff. It was for everything, and so we oftentimes in the Boston area, as you in Massachusetts know, there's a great deal of premium restaurants, and they all brag about having the best wine list. Well, they got a lot of their stuff from us, I got to tell you. Every time we were going to introduce a new line that Mr. Ty, the owner of the company, was bringing in, our guys, the sales guys, would go out and invite certain key wine buyers, whether it was key package stores or key restaurants that they wanted to get that line into, and they'd bring them up one afternoon, and they'd open up a case of mixed bottles of all this great stuff. And then, as they all left, about an hour later, half in a bag, Bob Zeida, that's me, walked in there, and I brought an empty carton, and I put the corks in all the bottles that were hardly ever opened, and I brought them home. So that's what happens to the wine. You don't want to keep wine in a bottle. No matter what the tradition is, they don't taste as good in the bottle. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I must have talked them all off the air.
I'm thinking, have you ever done freelance, like books for people? Besides, like you said, you do the school systems and all that?
Matter of fact, who is this talking?
I'm sorry, this is Steve. I'm from Attleboro, Mass.
Oh, from Attleboro. Huh? You know what, Steve? I know Attleboro. I know from all of Bristol County because my salesmen were territory for United Liquors here in New Bedford. We was called the Cape Division, but we had everything up to 128 and down to Attleboro to right on line. I'll answer you saying yes, I have, but I won't tell you who I did it for. What the title was. But I'll give you a little fill. It's sort of what I do for people because they appreciate what I do for them. And basically, everything that comes to me from let's say, a special request, that's sort of what you alluded to, is through an affiliation with one of the major schools that I am in contact with all the time that use a lot of my special needs material. I do special needs recording. I don't necessarily do recordings for the fun of doing it like I did for TIC. I mean, I did TIC was all bestsellers, all the Rocky stuff and everything else you want to think about. That's not the kind of recordings that I do now, but I can do it, see, because I've had the talents all these years.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, without giving you the title, I'm going to touch on it just to make a point, to answer your question directly. I got a special request from one of my private schools who uses a lot of my stuff. Remember, there's absolutely no cost to anybody here except me, and that's because I love doing it and I can well afford it, and I'll leave it at that. They asked me if I would get in touch with a certain individual who had 2 ADHD children go through this special school, and she was working to promote an author who was just publishing an ADHD book that's supposed to be an exceptional book. And only because I was asked by the private school who is into special needs, of all kinds of special needs, I said, yeah, I'll record it for the people as long as that's what it's going to be for. And I did. And it was 110 tracks recording. It took me 6 weeks to do it because it was really a textbook, like a medical doctor's textbook on ADHD. And you know what? The thrill of doing it is the very essence of why I put my life effort into this after working all these years, because I can do it at my my time, my pace, my pleasure, and I'm very good at it because I use Adobe 1.5. It's one of the classic professional recording programs, and that's what I've been using. And as a matter of fact, I got that program through TIC because TIC has been using Adobe 1.5 even to this day. And it's probably the best and easiest once you get used to using it for professional recordings. And I do everything now in MP3. It's a condensed format. Used to be all in WAVE, if you're familiar with WAVE. WAVE is the original old-fashioned audio tracking. That's passé nowadays. I'll pause and let somebody ask the question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, me.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I had two things. Number, I have a friend that's trying to on eBay. He's trying to sell it's in perfect condition. He's got a 10.5.
He's what?
He's got a half-track TIAC reel-to-reel, triple-headed 10.5-inch machine. I would buy it, but I don't have room. I don't know. He's a friend of mine trying to sell it on eBay for $350. That thing was worth like $1,750 at Leechmere back in the 80s.
Oh, you're talking about the two reel recorders and so forth?
Yeah.
Yeah, my oldest son had a big Sony, one of those big Sony cars. It was like a suitcase.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, the two people who lift the damn thing,
Yeah.
You need a roadie. No,
yeah.
I'm blind piano tuner. I'd love to put my other thing, if you had someone to help me put something on YouTube. I'm not computer literate. I don't even have a cell phone.
Well, let me stop and ask you people, those that didn't listen to me for a second, because this is a really key question. Bob Branco touched on it when we were talking casually before the official start of this tape, or whatever the recording is. Bob, I sent out to Bob a PDF file. That's a full print out file of my entire library.
Hey, Bob, and I never got that for some reason. This is Lynn
I got
Donna.
it, but I'm not able to read it easily, so
I never got it.
Use the OCR on JAWS for it.
It's very difficult for a lot of screen readers to read PDFs, unfortunately.
It can be a problem, yeah.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. If the thing about the lists, I have the lists. You got to believe what I'm telling you. I think this runs 17 pages, okay? So there's a lot of print out here. But it's formatted just simply for visual usage, I guess you might say, because of course I'm being cited. I never stood behind Bob to see him do his reading on the machine, the computer program that reads the text for you to listen to. I'm not that literate in that, but I have two columns. So I'm saying to myself last week or two, how's that reader going to go across Merton's Palace of Nowhere, and it's sliding over to the next column? And that's going to confuse you people, I would think. That can't be done very well, can it, on a what do you call that, a blind reader?
Yeah, I read PDF files, with my computer. I have the screen reader and everything. And once I got used to doing it, it worked out. But it took a little bit of experimenting and figuring out before I did it. But I have a question for you, Bob. This is Lynn Daniel. And I'm a bookworm. One of my favorite authors is John Grisham. Anything that he writes, I don't care about the reviews. I could care less if John Grisham wrote it, like I'm going to read it. So I guess you probably can figure what my question is going to be. Have you ever read any, done any of John Grisham's books?
Well,
I said you didn't, but
I did King of Torts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I did several of his, and they were done when I was when I was doing them all for TIC. Remember, I told you I started this broadcasting career with TIC by actually recording our segments of these different books, and I know. I'm looking at one. I've got such a list here. I'd have to take too much of our time to try to figure it out. But I've done all kinds of Mario Puzo stuff, James Patterson.
I like James Patterson. He's a little intense, but I like reading his books. It's kind of intense, but I like them.
I see The Painted House by John Grisham. I did that for TIC.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah, that was actually 14 hours, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of work about the whole thing, and the list is so long that you know that's the sad part, unfortunately, that for when you're visually impaired, you really probably can't read this because it wasn't formatted for your purposes. You know what I'm saying? I say that with all due respect. But you have to remember, all this stuff primarily, and even yet to this day, is for the education of the special needs people, for the, not education, well, for the school system's education of special needs on every single level, and they've been very, very well received. And the titles are just classic titles for educational purposes at every level, you know, where it applies to that particular grade, you know, from elementary to 5th grade, 6th grade to 8th grade, and then 9th grade through high school, and so forth and so on. And it's been very, very well received. That's about all I can tell. But it's been a big, one fun thing that I've ever done. I was a ham radio operator, like I said a little while ago. I'm not active in ham radio, except that I do read the national magazine for ham radio. It's called QST Magazine from the American Radio Relay League, and I'm still very much involved in broadcasting news about ham radio, but my radio is quiet of the last several years, only because my wife got tired of me spending too much time on it. Hi. Okay, next question.
Where can we read the stuff you recorded, or is it just for the school systems?
Oh no, it's for any no, it's perfectly legitimate with the public law and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into any legalities with anybody. It's perfectly legal as long as it's provided for people that have needs, special needs of any kind. It could be autism. It could be ADHD. Right. It could be those kids that can't get out of their own way in school, and all they do is cause trouble, but they got problems, you know. Yeah, right. Anybody that has a disability. The Americans with Disability Act covers the whole thing very broadly, frankly. So, if you want to take a question from there, go right ahead, please. Now, you know, the thing is, if you're still on the listening side of your device, if you can't read the list, I don't know how to give it to you, frankly. If somebody has a suggestion there, I would love to hear it, because this was not intended, again, this is a long, long list that's taken me 30 years to compile, and
well, at the risk of sounding ignorant on the subject, I'd like to know more than I actually do know. My immediate solution would be a Word document.
I was just going to say that. Save it as the format. Yep.
Okay. You could do that, huh? I think we can do that. Everything I've done is my whole list is in a Word document. Okay, how's that grab you? But all
you have to do, Bob, is attach it, and I can resend it to about 75 people.
Now the question becomes,
they also have a website, convertfiles.com, and I worked with it. And this website, you can convert any file into whatever format you want. Like I have converted PDF files into Word documents. I have converted, music files into MP3, and it's
well, I tell you what,
I use it a lot, that website.
Okay. I'll go into that with my dear son who lives with us. He's in marketing, and he's really techie versed in publishing information and material, and internet access and how to formulate formats and so forth. That's actually, all of these in my drive right now are in Word form. However, because of the depth of this information and the ease of transmitting it, we made it into PDF file. That's the only reason we did that. So I'll talk to him about it, and we'll see what he thinks, because then I'm going to get back to the question. All the pages have 2 columns. You're looking at an 8.5 by 11 standard page, okay? But it's cut in half and made 2 columns, 4 inches on each side, so to speak. How are you going to scan a Word document when there's 2 columns?
If you go down one column at a time. You would go down one column and then go across, and it would be harder than if it was 1 column, but you could do it.
Well, there's the rub for you people to think about. I mean, you collectively, because I can't change this format. There's so much on it. Yeah. I've worked all these years to create it that I'm not going to format this into a 30-page, 4-inch column. That's what you're saying.
Well, I don't think anyone would have asked you to do that, Bob. You did it the way you did it, and you had your own reasons for doing it that way. But we're on with you now, and I guess we're just simply saying that for whatever reason, and it's nobody's fault, many screen readers cannot read that particular format. Again, it's nobody's fault. I mean, I could create something right now that a lot of people can't read. That's just because it's what we all do.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll talk to my son about it. He happens to live at home, and he's a busy man. He has his own marketing business, but he takes care of Papa too, you know. And he's actually put this whole PDF thing together. And it has my whole history. It has laws, it has frequently asked questions about it, and that's too bad, because if you can't open it, there's all kinds of stuff. Part of this, it's a regular catalog, actually. So I'll see what we can do about that. And as far as I'm concerned, you people, because of your nature, and with the combination of the efforts of Bob Branco and his reputation as an advocate of all blind people or visually impaired people and other handicapped people, if I could do that to make it easier for you people to choose and select, I'll try to do that, because you're perfectly legitimately entitled to anything on these pages. I'm looking at hundreds of books, so you can take it from there, you know.
Yeah, one other suggestion. This is Alan up here in Vermont. I've taken PDF files that are in columns like that. I put it on my scanner. I have a Hewlett-Packard scanner that interfaces with my computer. I can then put it through my computer, make a file in my computer, and then read it from that. It's all very easy, and there isn't any problem whatsoever.
Well, that's encouraging. That means, Bob Branco, that if I could get this to you in the Word document format, you can put it back out to these good people wherever your list takes you. And anybody that chooses to respond and ask me whether it's for The Time Machine by H.G. Wells or, you know, I could go on and on. How about In the Shadow of Man by Jane Goodall? You want to learn about monkeys? There's one.
Yeah.
I ended up reading Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll last year because I had never read it. And I was in a lull spot. I said, hey, I'm going to read this for the kids. And I did. And they love it. So I'm delighted to just talk to you and be excited about maybe sharing some of this with you. And remember, there's absolutely no cost to any of you people. And if it's on, well, it's got to be on these lists. And if it's on this list, it's in one of my hard drives somewhere. I can turn that around for you. Now, hey, that brings me to a really interesting and very important point. It's called these cloud storage things, Microsoft Cloud. I've been using Dropbox.
Oh, yeah.
How many of you are familiar with that concept?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm familiar with the concept, but yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I've heard of Dropbox. Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Well, I don't mean to belabor that, but here's the point. If you send me your email, just send me an email, just telling me I would like if you must all have computers, I assume that part. I can send you it's called sending you an invitation, and this is totally free to you people. And I would say I'll send you an invitation to my Dropbox, which is a worldwide organization, but it's my Dropbox. And all you have to do is key in your name and your what you're going to just send it back to Dropbox, and they'll put you on my Dropbox. And then when you select the book off the list, maybe you'll get with the Windows the Windows program. Yeah. I can simply slide that in off of my computer as a copy into that Dropbox location with your name on it, and you'll have that in 5 minutes. once I do it, it just burns right across the world, and the whole book it could be any number of books, but the thing is, you don't want to take more than 1 or 2 books because it does take up space, and it's a free program. So I want to encourage you, and if you all are still listening patiently to me, and I've been talking for 40 minutes, I didn't expect to spend this much time talking. I expected to listen more, but I'm pleased that you allow me. I'm going to give you my email address, so get your pen or pencils ready. And Bob Branco knows it anyway. If you don't write this down right now, he can get back to you tomorrow or the next day. It's N1BLF.
Is that your ham call?
Yeah, it's a ham call. November 1, Bravo Lima Foxtrot, phonetically. November 1, Bravo Lima Foxtrot. N1BLF. In lowercase at Comcast.net. And you send me an email and tell me who you are. You don't have to give me any big, long detail, just that you want me to send you an invitation as part of the Branco group, because it's perfectly legal, and there's no cost to it to you people. So I will look forward to anybody's email, and then I can even, as a matter of fact, Bob Branco, I can even send my Word documents right into that Dropbox for you people. And you could take that Word document that we're talking about, taking the PDF off and putting the Word document on. I could slide that right into that same Dropbox, and you can have that.
And when it comes onto the computer, I can use the Braille printer and print it right out in Braille the same way that it came through.
There you go. So it's up to you, but guys, I would welcome any number of people to come in. I'm retired. I'm 85, but I'm a busy man, and I'm very spiritual. I go to Mass every morning and all that sort of stuff. So I work these things in, and I never stop doing some of it almost every day until my voice gets tired. And as I said earlier, I've had a rough voice the last couple of days, but it's okay. I get it through, And what other questions? Somebody else want to ask me a question?
Yep. Anyone else? Gary?
Well, I think keeping busy is going to keep you younger. I always believe that.
Well, that's what I believe too. I keep pretty busy. I got to tell you, between that and the most of my volunteer effort though is with the recordings for school systems all over the area. It's not even just local school systems. Once they get onto it, they realize how easy it is. Schools now, especially the public schools, because they got budget constraints, and they don't want to download these e-books because they cost them what? A lot of them cost $4, $5, $6, $8 or something. They don't do that. They say, the hell with it. We're not going to do it. So they pick a book that's pretty well famous, and they work their curricula around those for special needs children. And those kids can take those copies, and they can pick them up on the school puts it on their hard drive or something, and they'll burn the copies onto a smartphone or onto a notebook or a little laptop, and the kids can go home, like in the summertime, for instance. One of my school systems just 2 weeks ago asked me, the one I've done a lot of work with, Bob, could you take the first, second, third, and fourth graders, and we have 2 book selections for these elementary kids. Each elementary child has to pick 2 books. and take those home with them. These are special educational kids, okay? So I'm in the process of, would you believe, I think it was 12 books. I'm down to 2 more books to go, so that I can put that on a thumb drive, a flash drive, and each of the schools is going to get it for their special ed kids to take their copies home and learn reading from their copy of the book, but they can't read yet. So they listen to the audio, and the audio helps them to form the words and the conjunctions and the phrase of the sentences and so forth. There you go. So you have to give me an email, n1blf@comcast.net, and I'll get back to you within a day or two usually, and just tell you what's going down. And then, Bob Branco, when I make the formulation with what I'm going to do with the Word document, I'll notify you right off the bat, because you can send a broad email out. I'm not going to send emails to umpteen people if I don't have to, But that's not the same as saying you have to give me the Dropbox. You have to give me the Dropbox, your email, so I can put you on the Dropbox. And once that's done, you're on the Dropbox. There's no cost to that. That's a free service. Okay? Go ahead. I haven't talked this much in a long time. Go ahead.
I have a question for you. This is Karen from Leominster.
Uh-huh.
And that's right near the Perkins School that I guess you work for in, I think it's in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. My question is, you say you've done children's books and young adult books. Have you ever done the book? It's a classic, A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine Langwell. It was like a fantasy science fiction book.
No, I don't have that title, that's for sure.
Okay, it's in the 1960s.
Yeah. Let's go back a step or two. Are you familiar with the Perkins School up there?
I'm not, because I went to the one in Watertown. I've heard of it. Everyone gets it mixed up when I say I went to Perkins. Oh, you went to the one in Lancaster. I really am not familiar with that one.
Oh, well, I got news for you. They're one of my favorite customers.
Oh, now aren't they for mainly the deaf? And I'm not sure what else, but
I really don't know, ma'am. But I have a very, very good relationship with those good people. And
they're highly recommended. I know that everyone thinks highly of them.
Yeah. Well, you see, good news travels between school administrations, if you know what I mean. And I've got several major private schools that are on the program for their special needs. A lot of private schools don't feature special needs students, let's be frank about it. But they do, and they're a marvelous place. Just a picture on the internet is amazing to see if you were to see it. So there's your answer. See, that's I don't talk about who uses my stuff, but I'll comment to their goodness, that's for sure. So who else? Bob, take it over.
We got time for a couple more.
Well, I do have another question. Oh.
All right, we got Karen and Jay. Karen, you made it in by about a fraction of a second. Then it's Jay after you.
All right, I'll just it's a quick question. Did you ever read any books by Daniel Steele or Stephen King for radio reading service?
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact. Daniel Steele, I used to read everything that came out in the store with Daniel Steele. She was She just had a nice style about her. You know, the yushy stuff from the movie places and all that stuff. Yeah, I did quite a few of her books, I think. And who's the other one you asked me about?
Stephen King, the one, he's an author from Maine.
Yeah,
he does scary.
Yeah, I did several of his.
Scary.
Yeah, I did several of his too, but for me to say, look at my long list here and go find out, I think Buick 8 was one of them that I did. He was one of those bizarre books he put out.
Hey, that's funny. I never read that one. I read Christine, but I never read, maybe
Buick 8, that was the name. Yeah, I have it's right here. Buick 8.
That one.
It was actually 16 discs, which a disc is like 80 minutes max.
Right. I never read that book. I don't remember it.
You didn't miss too much.
Really?
Well, maybe it was one of his. I remember Christine. That was scary enough. The car that ran by itself.
Oh yeah.
Banged into people, and it was scary.
Yeah.
Okay, Jay.
Oh, thank you, Bob. When you were reading for TIC, and I'm sure lots of other people also were reading, because everybody used to get that station part of the receiver and some radio station you broadcast.
Yeah,
I wonder if any of those recording stuff and TIC ever been kept anywhere instead of just broadcasting once and it's gone.
My first response to you is, unfortunately, I think it's once and it's gone. Now today, today being the last year or so, because of digitization and the storage facilities and the formats that we use, and everything is MP3. So, they probably they do have archives. If you were to go on ticnetwork.org, I think it's .org. They just changed it from .com to .org. It is .org. They have a very large archive there of the books that they read. They read I think 2 books, one in the afternoon every day for an hour, and they have an evening book also that they do. So they do archive this stuff. I don't know, because I hardly go there anymore. I'm 60 miles from Marshfield to Dartmouth, Massachusetts, in New Bedford area. I used to go up there all the time, but that's a long haul by today's standards, and I don't need to go. I put it in my Dropbox for TIC. They scoop it up in an instant, and they're ready to put it on the air a minute later if they had to. You see, that's the marvel of Dropbox. But I really encourage you people, any of you are not aware of TICnetwork.org, it is probably one of the most renowned reading services in the United States. They have all kinds of awards over the years.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with it, and you have access to the Internet, you should really check that out. They got stuff on there 24/7. And at night, if you're one of those persons that doesn't sleep because of the circadian clock or something at night, and some of you people are because of your nature, I think, they repeat books all the time on there all night long. And there may be different more current programs, 30-minute segments of all kinds of programs. I used to read Sports Illustrated for them. I did the U.S. News and World Report for maybe 10 years.
It's a good magazine,
Yeah, and so I did every single kind of thing I could, and it just got down to the point where it was too far for me to go. I used to have to go to TIC, the broadcast studio. Got a lovely facility. But I live in Dartmouth, I had to go over there.
No, they also part of it's available on Newsline for the blind, TIC itself.
Yeah.
If anybody subscribed to Newsline, all they have to do click on Newsline in the TIC, then they get it.
Well, I promote them any day at all because they've sort of got me started in book recording. Very frankly, that's what started me was TIC, and I love every one of them. And they have new managers there, the old-timers that started the business 30 years ago in Marshfield there. They've just recently retired, so they got new, fresher minds and more, people trained a little differently. And the gentleman that runs that operation now there is a very brilliant gentleman that's making a lot of inroads with the visually impaired community and other handicapped communities to work TIC's programming into those facilities that you're more familiar with than I am. That's all I can tell you about it. But if you clicked on TICnetwork.org, that's all in there. You just scroll your pages, however you do it, and you can pick up a lot of information about the Commission for the Blind and, all that stuff that I don't have the words to talk about it. I just respect it highly, but I'm not conversant in that language. You know what I mean?
So
well,
you're
that's
doing
what I
fine.
got for you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir. Anybody else?
I don't think anybody else has a question, Bob, so I might wrap it up and say thanks for coming on and sharing your experience with all of my listeners and myself.
Well, it's my pleasure to do it. It's a long story, when you have to put it into quick words, and I hate to take most of the time up, but I guess you wanted to hear what I was doing. And
you did well.
You that,
did well. And I'm sure that if there were more questions, you would have answered them. But I guess people are satisfied right now and are very pleased, as I am, that you came on tonight.
Well, my pleasure, and I wish all of you a very happy summer season. It's finally getting warm. Today was about 70 outside, and
that was 80 here in Leominster.
Oh, you hit 80, huh? Wow.
Yep, 81.
So I live right off of 195, so I can almost wave at all the tourists coming from New York and Jersey and Washington. The only trouble is they don't stop here. They take all the money down to Provincetown. So that's good. It keeps the Massachusetts going. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for being on.
And, Bob, if you ever have a reason to want me to come back on, I'm not looking to do this every week. Believe me, I'm not, because I can't tell you any more about it than I did.
I'll have you on again if you want. No problem.
Very good. We'll come up. But I'll keep in touch with you, Bob Branco, and I'll see what I can come up with in terms of the actual Word document itself, not the PDF. And I understand.
I think that would be more helpful.
Gentleman
really
from Vermont, I thank you for a gentleman from Vermont, because apparently you explain how you can make your scanner convert that. That's your language, guys, not mine.
Well, it'll read any kind of print. You put newspapers, you can put menus, business cards, anything on the scanner, and it will read to you as long as it isn't the dot metrics.
Yeah, I see.
There's too much spacing in between the dots, and it'll just hang up.
Yeah. One last thing. I did get an email from a lady from Muncie, Indiana, Bob. She was a ham radio operator, apparently. And she must have received something from one of your attachments that she was able to read. So I'm going to send her a copy of this whole list. I don't know how she's going to read it. That's up to who. But she did respond. But that's the only one that responded. One individual that whatever you sent along, Bob Branco, to your group, one person responded from Muncie, Indiana. There, a lady.
I know a ham and a female there in Muncie, Indiana. Her name is Karen Bailey.
That's who it is.
Yep, I know her well.
That's who it was. It's a very short little email. I sent her a response that I got the email and I would get back to her, but I had other things to do at that time. So I was waiting maybe, frankly, for more responses so I can maybe correlate a couple of responses with one communique, but it didn't turn out that way. But I hope you people, if you have the inclination, ask me for a Dropbox location, and I'll send you the invitation, and then I'll get you listed one way or the other, and you can start asking what you want. And as it comes in to me, I'll simply make a copy of that. It's got to be MP3 now. Don't think any other format, as far as I'm concerned. And that's what you're going to get, okay?
Great.
Thank you very much, Bobby.
Thank you. You have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Have a night. Bye-bye.